And by the way, Dr. Lakkavalli leads the clinical data management at Fortrea, ensuring efficient and effective clinical trial processes across global operations. And Dr. Lakkavalli Amrith is the principal global CDM operations at Fortrea. So, and the activation is going on. Just a moment until we continue. And here we go. Welcome, Dr. Lakkavalli. Hello. Thank you very much for joining. Hi there.
Thank you so much. Am I audible? Is my
wonderful
audio clear? And
yes, okay. Thank you. Thanks for checking.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Linda. Amazingly grateful and humbled to be a part of this great summit. AI as an assistant. We have a lot of things to discuss and very little time, I would say that. So let's jump into the next slide. And thank you so much, Ron, for bringing in about the software as a medical device. I was not thinking of going in much detail about the SAMD or software as a medical device, but amazing presentation. Thank you for bringing all those insights so that I can add up to it. And before I proceed, I just want to have a word of disclaimer. I'm not representing Fortrea today. This opportunity is to share knowledge, share and learn from the presentations and all the amazing people who are there in the industry. So let's, without any further ado, let's jump into the next slide. Yeah, I have the control. So a pretty unconventional way of presenting today. And Ron, I appreciate the workflows, what you presented during your first presentation. I am a firm believer that when the presentations are made, the participants are either reading your slides or listening to you. So what I want people in this amazing AI Summit is your attention. The next 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds, I want all of you to imagine a scenario which I would like to bring forth, because this scenario is very important, setting the premise and setting the stage for the next few slides. We're talking about a very important topic today. I've been seeing a lot of comments about how artificial intelligence has been influencing all of our lives. At the same time, there are people who are have not so good views about artificial intelligence. So here is the scenario. Here is it. Here how it goes. You get up in the morning. It's a wonderful day. You go to your college or you go to your work. You have a wonderful work day. You come back home. You're watching TV, spending very good time with your family and friends. And suddenly a very unexpected thing happens to you. You encounter an unimaginable, unbearable pain in your back, and you fall off the ground, not sure what's going on. You call 911, the ambulance arrives, and the next moment before you realize you're in the emergency. This, my friends, I just want to bring back to the presentation. This particular scenario is not a scenario. It happened to me. It's a story which happened to me back in mid-2017 when I was diagnosed with a condition called Cauda-Equina syndrome. For much of you who don't know what this condition is, this is a condition, Cauda, to just simplify things. Cauda means tail, equina means horse. So we all know that the brain has the continuation of the spinal cord. The spinal cord is divided under various segments: cervical for the neck, thoracic for the chest, lumbar for the level below the thorax. So your spinal cord ends at the level L1 or the lumbar L1, the spine, and then it branches out like the tail of the horse. That's why it's called Cauda equina. And there are certain conditions where this particular nerve gets pinched or pressurized, And when that happens, the person who is experiencing this condition experiences an unbearable, unimaginable pain in his back, leading all to his legs. And what could happen is it is a catastrophic emergency, surgical emergency. If it's not treated immediately, the person can lose sensation in his bladders, his bowels, and all the sexual organs down below his belly. So this, my friend, I wouldn't have been here talking to you in front of you if I was not given surgery and immediate attention when I was there in the hospital. And the reason why I'm stating this is because all the healthcare providers, including the physicians in the ER today, not only in Canada, but throughout the world, are facing an unimaginable amount of pressure in terms of their workloads, in terms of the ratios between physicians and the patients, in terms of the funds that is taking care of running these hospitals, and especially about in this scenario in Canada, where the public health is covered by OHIP. Yeah, that stands for Ontario Health Insurance Plan. The province where I am posted has a tremendous amount of pressure running these ERs in the hospitals. The ERs, we have seen back when the COVID hit us in 2019, 2020, early 2020, so many ERs were closed. They couldn't take up the load. They simply collapsed. The system collapsed. And the reason, again, I'm stressing the reason here we are trying to address is how can AI bridge this gap? How can AI bring this efficiency and solve this problem? We're going to look into these numbers, but this is why I wanted you to imagine this catastrophic scenario. If the care was not provided to me on time, then my life would have changed. I wouldn't have been here. So moving on to the next slide, just a very brief thing about me. I'm Dr. Lakkavalli Amrith. I'm a maxillofacial surgeon trained dentist, but very early on, I made a decision to move into clinical research so that I can help more people, more healthcare community as such. So as I mentioned, I'm not representing Fortrea, which is one of the biggest global contract research organizations. I'm here today to share my thoughts, to share my views about artificial intelligence, some use cases we're going to discuss, and how artificial intelligence can bring about changes in the industry. So let me take a step back here and talk about this amazing general purpose technology. As we all know, artificial intelligence as such is considered as a general purpose technology. To simplify things further, if you go back, if you look at the history of human evolution, we saw in the later part of 18th century when the humanity discovered steam, the power of steam, which changed how humans transported goods. The locomotives, the steam engines changed how humans moved from one place to the other. People started moving from one city to the other, one country to the other. Great railroads were built. Amazing things happened because of steam locomotives. It changed so many industries. Then towards the early part of the 19th century, when we saw electricity, it brought about changes, it brought about industrial revolution, and it created history. Lot of industries were created, lot of sectors, lot of domains were created, which saw human evolution evolve. And the next big thing, what we saw after electricity in the early 1980s, was the introduction of computers, the power of compute. So back in those days, during 1960s, there was a lot of talk about artificial intelligence, a lot of things about how machines can influence humans, but there was no compute power. There was no enough data for us to see that change, tangible changes. But what happened after the 1980s, the early 2000s, is the power of internet, the next general purpose technology, what humankind face or is still exploring. We are seeing Web3, which is a big thing in internet. And my friends, I take a pause here. In the last 2 years, what humanity has encountered or utilizing artificial intelligence has been phenomenal. The adoption rate of this artificial intelligence has been immense. You will not believe that it has surpassed the adoption rate of the computers and the internet by leaps and bounds. So the last 2 years, we have seen when ChatGPT came into picture in the early part of 2021, 2022, the adoption rate was very, very less, but it grew exponentially. Today, we use ChatGPT, we use Copilot, and I hope my friend from Microsoft will be talking about Copilot on the efficiency it's bringing up in our daily lives. But here, my friend, what I'm here to discuss in the next few slides is addressing the problem. What is the problem we have at our hand? As I mentioned, the scenario, going back to my scenario, there is an immense need for the burnout the physicians are facing, not only the physicians, but also the healthcare professionals as such, who are facing many cognitive burnout in their daily lives, and how we can address. So when we think about any solution and address these problem, the first thing we need to understand is the approach. Many companies, as Ron was mentioning in his presentation, billions and billions dollars of money is spent in the AI industry, training the models, bringing these models into general public. They can access it on their phone. But how far does it go to address the real world use cases? And that's part of the problem we are addressing. And to do this, one needs to first fall in love with the problem before you're thinking about designing an app, training your models, deciding your model. First, you have to understand the basic question: what is the solution that you're going to answer? If you have that premise in your mind, and you have a data strategy how to approach it, then your solution would definitely make a sense. So talking about the solution, what can we think of AI? Let's talk about few use cases in the scenario in terms of solution. How can AI as such in the whole healthcare as a provider, healthcare provider, and in clinical trials address these issues? So I would like to mention 3 important points here. The point about documentation, because we know that in clinical trials, unless it's documented, it's not done. Documentation, representation of your data plays a huge role in clinical research, and not only clinical research, in all the domains what we are working out. We will try to bring up some discussion on the regulatory stuff and what value addition or the concepts which we have to understand while addressing the solution. But in terms of the use cases, I'd like to mention 3 use cases here. The first thing is about bringing down the bottlenecks in the workflows. So when a patient goes into an ER and then sees a doctor, between that phase, once he or she walks into the ER and sees the doctor, there are hundreds and hundreds of workflows, people who get involved in the triage process. There's a lot of bottleneck involved there in the process. And also the big thing what I want to talk about here is pre-authorizations. I know healthcare is not a very simple thing. There are many people involved. There are a lot of workflows. It's a very costly stuff. It's not easy. There is hospitals who have to manage these workflows, get these funds so that they can drive these processes, workflows. So we're going to touch a little bit more detail about these pre-authorizations, how AI can bring in efficiencies and bring in reduction in these bottlenecks. The transcriptions, the healthcare community knows whenever there is a visit, there is this doctor having some dictations which need to be transcribed so that it goes into their payments for the insurance companies, because all that needs to be documented. How the physician saw, when did he see, what was his observations, what was his differential diagnosis, what are the tests which were advised. All these things take off a lot of manual work, administrative stuff. So it's adding a layer of administrative burden. And can AI help us resolve or bring in efficiencies? The answer is certainly yes, because we are going into a phase where we're not talking about Gen AI. I'm not talking about a chat bot or an assistant who is just trying to give you answers, but we are in the age of agentic generative applications where generative AI agents are able to reason and are able to complete the processes of a particular task. And there is a word of caution here. Again, our friend Ron mentioned about the information about the guardrails, what we have to talk about, what are the applications which we can imagine. So before going into the guardrails, just a step back. So we talked about software as a service, software as a medical device, and these devices need to be validated, need to undergo clinical evaluation in order to ensure that these algorithms get into these approvals and they are doing what they are supposed to do. So I'm just cognizant about the time. With very little time, I'm just going to brush upon the guardrails and then I'm going to conclude. In terms of the guardrails, what I want to talk about is two important concepts. We had our good old friend FDA, Health Canada, and the MHRA from United Kingdom introduced back in 2017, something called as the good machine learning practices for the medical devices. And what it really emphasizes is there are 10 guiding principles, out of which my favorite thing is number 7 and number 10. Number 7 talks about human in the loop. So what exactly HITL stands for? Human in the loop. So basically, just to cut it down, making it very simple, you train a model, you have a solution. The ultimate solution or the decision maker would be a human. So if you give an example, you could have an app which could take an input as a data like an image. It could be an image, or it could be a symptom, an audio file. And there is this algorithm which provides an inference, and the output which comes out of this SAMD, or the software as a medical device, the algorithm which is changed, it provides an output which has to be finally decided by a human, a physician or an expert in that field, who decides that whatever the augmented AI system is producing as an output is clearly understood, and the decision is made by the physician. So that is very important. And coming to the last point, the number 10, which talks about continuous evaluation and continuous revisiting of these deployed models. So this, my friends, lands to me with my final slide, which is about questions. If there are any questions I can take or I can answer, I would be glad to go about it. And again, we are very cognizant about the time, and I know my fellow team members are waiting for their presentation as well. So if there are any questions, we can take it. And thank you so much for this opportunity, Linda, and for Centricity, who's engaging in this amazing summit, AI summit. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lakkavalli.